Stones weave the tapestry of the earth. They symbolize the old, the everlasting, the ancestors. What does it mean to make an oath on a stone connected to the realm of the departed? Stay tuned. You're listening to Ritual Recipes, a podcast full of practical magic to nourish your inner life. I'm your host, Zita Christian. Today, I'm talking about oathing stones and ritual rocks, and a wee tale or two from the land of my Celtic heritage. I'll talk about how I've used oathing stones in wedding ceremonies, and I'll share a simple rock ritual to add meaning to your everyday life. So hearken back now to a time long ago when the land was always viewed as the home of the ancestors. Everyone knew that the spirits of loved ones who had died now guided and protected those still walking the earth. Everyone understood that physical survival in this world depended on spiritual connections to the other world. A stone that came from the land bridged the worlds of here and beyond. To swear an oath with your hand on a sacred stone forged an invisible link to your ancestors. Break your oath, and you break your connection. You risk survival in this world and the next. If your clan knew you'd broken your vow, their support would also be in jeopardy. At best, you'd be shunned. At worst, you'd be driven from the village. If you didn't honor a commitment to your ancestors, how could you be trusted? Stones deemed sacred by the locals exist all over the world. In the Orkney archipelago off the northeast coast of Scotland once stood the Stone of Odin. A megalith approximately 8 feet tall and 3.5 feet wide, Odin's stone rose from the land like a slab set upright by a giant's hand. In the lower part of the stone was a naturally occurring hole. Couples in love would stand on either side of the stone and join hands through the hole in a wedding ritual. Parents would pass their newborn children through the hole with the belief that doing so would protect the babe from palsy in old age. What I'm saying is not merely the stuff of legend, it is the matter of fact. In 1791, the elders of Orkney arraigned a young man on the charge of breaking the promise to Odin. I don't know what the young man had promised. The possibilities lend themselves to all sorts of story ideas. But what's clear is that promise to Odin was serious. Now, sadly, the Stone of Odin was destroyed in 1814. Rocking stones were believed to hold power too. These boulders rested on each other in such a way that they would rock without falling. Parents would bring their sick children to rocking stones. Think about it. Imagine yourself as a first-time mother. You're inexperienced and alone. You never learned how to soothe a colicky baby, or treat a rash, or stop diarrhea, or ease the pain of cutting teeth. There's no one around you can ask. Though your own mother and grandmother are dead, you know that if they were alive, they would help you. And if you believed that the rocking stones could connect you to them, it's easy to see why you would want your baby rocked by the women who came before you. The Logan Stone in Cornwall, England, was such a rocking stone. Sadly, it too was destroyed. A Royal Navy boat crew toppled it on a bet. The community outcry was so fierce, the lieutenant in charge of the crew was forced to re-erect the stone at his own expense. Alas, too much damage had been done to the stone, and it was never the same. The passage of time has changed how many view the existence of the other world, and with it, the sanctity of stones. Beliefs that were unquestioned years ago now fall to superstition, horror stories, and jokes. Even for those of us who do believe in another world, our ability to connect with our ancestors the way previous generations did has also changed. That might be due in some part to the fact that we're a mobile society. Our ancestors are like colorful bits of beach glass from every continent, shifting in a grand kaleidoscope. Few of us have a stone from the plot of land where we were born. Still fewer of us have ever set foot on the land of our ancestors. Still, we can feel a connection to them, even if we know little or nothing about them. We can still feel an emotional attachment to a place, even if it's not where we were born, even if it has no connection to our ancestors. For instance, couples getting married might feel a connection to the university campus where they met, to the vineyard where they had their first date, to the hiking trail where they had their first serious argument that revealed the importance of the relationship, to the beach where they got engaged. Later, the memories and a spiritual connection that began as physical becomes emotional, and for some, spiritual. Connection, commitment, continuity. These qualities inspire and strengthen a couple's wedding vows. As a wedding officiant, I look for ways to bring those qualities into the ceremony. How? Through ritual. Ritual, a visible act, performed with invisible intent. Today's couples are more open than ever to including creative rituals in their ceremonies. Making their vows can take on added symbolism when made on an oathing stone. Plus, having a couple make their vows on an oathing stone is a beautiful way to enrich a non-denominational ceremony or add the spiritual, not religious, feeling many of today's unchurched couples seek. The logistics are simple. As the officiant, I hold the oathing stone so the guests can see it, and I say a few words about its meaning. I can't continue to hold the stone while the couple places their hands on it when they make their vows, or I might invite grandparents or parents to come up and hold the stone. Or the couple can take turns holding the stone for each other, or hold the stone together. However it's done, I believe the stone will absorb the vibration of the couple's love for each other, and the love of all of those who have gathered with them. Infused with that love, the oathing stone becomes a literal touchstone for the marriage. Imagine the couple celebrating each anniversary by holding the stone and repeating their wedding vows, or making new vows for the coming year. The stone has all the markings of a treasured heirloom for generations to come. Imagine the oathing stone being used at the wedding of the couple's children and their children, and on and on. Imagine a family member building a box for the stone, or making a quilt in which to wrap the stone, or weaving a nest of willows so the stone can be displayed in the home. Imagine the stone set on the table at Thanksgiving, the first time the couple hosts the holiday. Now back to the day of the wedding. Are you familiar with a fairly new element in weddings called the first look? That's when the couple sees each other for the first time on their wedding day before the ceremony. The first look is just for the couple and their photographer. It's meant to give the couple a moment to quiet their nerves, to share a private reflection on the rite of passage they're about to go through. The choreography is usually for one person to stand in position. The other person comes up from behind. The two people don't see each other's faces until one taps the other on the shoulder and he or she turns around. As a ritualist, I've always thought the emotions in the first look could be deepened with, you guessed it, a ritual. Imagine the groom holding an oathing stone. When the bride taps him on the shoulder, he turns to her, holding the symbol of eternity, endurance, abundance, faithfulness, and trust. Imagine he has infused the stone with love. The bride places her hand on the stone too, and later when they make their vows during the ceremony, they do so holding the stone or simply having it on a little table or altar in the ceremony space. Now I use the words bride and groom only for ease of explanation. Love is love, and that needs no explanation. So what's on the stone? Well, that depends. A few years ago, I officiated at a wedding in the garden of the historic Webdene Barn in Old Wethersfield, Connecticut. The groom was a Scotsman, surnamed Douglas. To honor his Celtic heritage, I made a hand-fasting cord and incorporated ribbon in his Douglas clan tartan. I also painted an oathing stone with the Celtic symbol, the Ogham, that's spelled O-G-H-A-M, Ogham, for the word gra, G-R-A, meaning love. The couple had family and friends who had flown over from England and Scotland for the wedding. They appreciated seeing symbols of their heritage. You can see photos of that hand-fasting cord and oathing stone on my website, moonriverrituals.com. Just go to the tab for ritual recipes and the show notes for this episode. It's number 4. You can find your own oathing stone and mark it however you wish. If you want a work of art, or if you're looking to gift a couple with an oathing stone, please see the stones I have on my Etsy shop. The shop is called Moon River Rituals. You'll find a stone hand-painted with grapes, perfect for a vineyard wedding, and there's a stone painted with waves, perfect for a beach wedding. There are stones painted with trees to acknowledge the blending of families. There's also a stone painted with a lotus, the flower that develops its beauty only by growing through the mud. The inventory is always changing, so check back often. Now, the use of an oathing stone isn't confined to weddings. Are you undertaking a serious project? Kick a bad habit? Commit to a healthy habit. Use a stone and make a vow to yourself. Anoint the stone with essential oil. Frankincense is my favorite. Forming a business partnership? Oathing stone. Need a graduation gift to symbolize perseverance and accomplishment? Oathing stone. Want a commitment ceremony when marriage is not an option? Oathing stone. And then there are the little special stones, what I call my ritual rocks. In his book, Celtic Sacred Landscapes, author Nigel Pennick talks about how by simply touching a stone, we can feel a connection to an eternal substance, and how the virtue in the stone is transferred to us. I believe it. I have certain special stones. I hold one of them when I'm feeling stressed. It's gray with a white outline of a circle. Looks like a string around a portion of the stone. Feeling its weight quiets my mind. I think of the wheel of life, always turning, always changing. The stone's message to me? This too will pass. I have a translucent stone that appears marked with a dark outline of a door, a mystical portal to the past. When I hold that one, I feel connected to a realm of details I can't remember, and of a certainty I can't forget. Its message to me: when one door closes, another door opens. I have a black stone with the image of a white turtle, at least that's what I see, and on the turtle's back is a heart. That stone's message to me: love is patient, love is kind. Looking at stones is a lot like looking at clouds and seeing people and animals, so you might see something different in the stone. Nigel Pennick affirms what I noticed while traveling through Europe many, many years ago, that rocks with some notable quality, a hole, a discoloration, a spire, a bowl, were commonly acknowledged to have been stopping places for sacred or supernatural beings. Perhaps my little stones were strewn by the fairies. Maybe you have a special stone, something you found, something given to you. Have you given time to focus on its features? Have you opened your ears and your heart to its message? For another look at stones, Pennick writes about a practice in ancient Rome involving stones carved with a pair of footprints and the phrase proitu et reditu, meaning for the journey and return. It's important to remember that back then, journeys of any kind were fraught with danger, so the person about to embark would first undergo a ritual during which he would stand in the stone footprints. Upon his safe return, he would plant his feet once again in the footprints carved in stone. The Romans weren't the only ones to use rock footprints. Way back, in the 13th century, the Danish writer Saxo Grammaticus wrote about how such rock footprints were found in northern Europe. He wrote about times much earlier than his own, about how people would elect a lord or a king by casting their votes while standing on a stone planted in the ground, connecting their votes with the steadfastness of the stone, symbolized the strength of their vote and the lasting reign of the lord or king. Sometimes a portable stone was used to affirm kingship. 34 Scottish kings were enthroned with the legendary Stone of Scone, also known as the Stone of Destiny, until King Edward I of England seized the 450-pound block of red sandstone. In the 13th century, the stone was moved to Westminster, housed inside a specially built chair of oak. In coronation ceremonies, the new English monarch would sit over the legendary stone of Scottish kings. Centuries of tension between the two countries can be seen in that stone. In 1996, after the stone had been rescued by a group of Scottish students, then taken back to Westminster, England returned the stone to Scotland in a gesture of goodwill. It's now kept in Edinburgh Castle. Rocks that could be used as chairs were often viewed as thrones. The person sitting in the rock chair had the power to command. Pennock writes about a rock chair at Altadevin in County Tyrone in Northern Ireland that is said to hold the power to command the other world. Thanks to Ancestry.com, I can now trace relatives back to the 1600s who came from that area. I wonder if any of them ever sat in that rock chair. On the island of St. Kilda, there's a rock bearing the print of a person's knees. Folks there say it's where St. Patrick prayed. A rock that held what appeared to be the print of a horse's hoof was said to have come from royal horses. The ancient Celts would say those animals were sacred to Epona, the horse goddess. Pennock suggests that when we see formations in rocks, we recognize the traces to ancient times. I agree. I think in seeing those traces, we connect to the spirit of a distant past. I look again at my translucent portal stone, the one that bears the markings of a door. Perhaps it's a portal to the fairy realm. Perhaps it's the image of a rock chair. Here's another story from history about stones. These days, we have the technology to identify the absolute center of a geographic place. Centuries ago, the center of a place was called the omphalos, the navel of the world. People viewed their village as the village and marked it with a dome-shaped stone to symbolize the cosmic arc above them and their position beneath the center of the arc. The vertical axis running through the arc to the center point on Earth connected the upper world with the lower world. Marked with a special stone, an omphalos, the connection between the worlds could not be lost or destroyed. When a couple gets married under an arch, they're doing so under an omphalos. The symbolism is beautiful. They are the center of their world. They are connecting with the guiding, protective spirits above and below. The commitment they make to each other cannot be lost or destroyed. I find it interesting to remember that in tarot cards, the suit of pentacles or coins represents the element of earth, the material world. Mountains, trees, stones, the physical riches and abundance of the earth, all that endures the test of time. I think that's why couples like to get married outside. They want to feel the vibration of the natural world. If the weather doesn't cooperate, and they can't have the ceremony outside, they can always use an oathing stone in a first look, or hold the stone while they make their wedding vows. In the show notes for this episode, this is number 4, I have a photo of the ritual rocks I keep on my desk. They aren't fancy rocks. I found 2 of them on beaches, one of them in a field. I believe each one carries a message for me. This too will pass. When one door closes, another door opens. And love is patient. Love is kind. Not a day goes by that I don't hold one of those rocks for a moment or two to absorb its message. So, for you, find a stone. Wash it. Do images appear when the stone is wet? Look at its markings. What do they suggest? What wisdom does the story carry for you? You don't know? Well, tell the stone what you want to know. Then listen. Just listen. Rituals keep us oriented to the natural world and can connect us to our ancestors. That's what oathing stones are all about. I hope you're inspired to use an oathing stone in a wedding ceremony or in a ritual for any personal commitment. In the meantime, start collecting your own little ritual rocks. And thanks for joining me. Ritual Recipes is a side dish of moonriverrituals.com, the mother website, where I've worked since 2012 as a certified life cycle celebrant to officiate more than 100 weddings, bless babies, perform vow renewals, conduct funerals and memorial services, and create seasonal rituals for private circles and public gatherings. For more about these rituals, visit the website, moonriverrituals.com, and then click on the Ritual Recipes tab. You'll find a drop-down menu with the show notes. This is episode number 4. You can find ritual recipes on Apple Podcasts, iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, wherever you consume your podcasts. If you like the taste of this episode, please go to iTunes and leave a review. Better yet, subscribe. That way, you won't miss an episode, and it's the best way to help others find the show. I'd really appreciate it. I believe in the power of rituals. If you do too, or just want to know a little more, please join me for the next episode and tell your friends. It's like sharing a recipe, a ritual recipe.